Okay guys, so brake job time on project JUNK S10. I wasn't going to do a brake job to this thing. I was just trying to replace this line here before I put the bed on, because that was the next thing I was going to do. Got the line off, went to bleed the brakes or check the bleeder screw on the wheel cylinder, and the bleeder screw broke off. So now I'm going to be doing a brake job. I don't think these rear brakes were working anyway. One reason here is it's pretty obvious there's grease all over this brake. We've got a rear wheel seal out, and I kind of figured that because it was kind of greasy on this side. Some of that's brake fluid. It wasn't that greasy, but it was a little greasy, so I kind of figured I had a problem back here. So I guess we'll be doing a brake job and a wheel seal back here at the same time. It's going to start out with the brake job here. You can see I've already got the drums off. Had to heat those to get them off. They tried to beat on them, they wouldn't come off. They have a really nice puller I want to get. I never did get it, but they have a really nice puller that can pull these off if you have trouble. Otherwise, you're going to have to get them off somehow. Sometimes that can be the most difficult part of these drum brakes. I really don't like drum brakes. It's been a long time since I've messed with a drum brake. Drums off. Now you got the shoes here. You got to take all these springs off. The retainers here that are spring loaded. There's little pins. And you got to take all them off. Also, I got new drums. These brakes don't look that bad. I gotta wonder if someone wasn't in here and changed the shoes for Grandpa at one time. Didn't change anything else. Here, a couple more tips here on this. Do one side at a time so you can see how everything's laid out, or take pictures of how everything's laid out. This can get a little confusing once you start trying to put everything back together. And another thing is, get the hardware kit when you do this. When you go get your brakes, get the new hardware kit with all the new springs and everything else, pins and everything you're going to need to do the job is in that accessory kit or whatever they call it. But that really helps. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is pull out your return springs on the pads. Okay, so then you got to compress this spring right here, down here. It goes to your self adjuster. You can pull that out. And you can go ahead and pull this spring out. Okay, so then you're going to want to pull the parking brake strut out. None of this stuff just falls out, guys. It's a real struggle with these drum brakes. Remember, you got a little spring on the end of that. Okay, so now we can take these springs off the these are rusted and crusty. You just gotta spin them off the pin. There is a tool that you can get that will help you do this. Okay, so they want you to take this off here. I don't know why we got to take that off right now. The whole assembly should be able to come off now. Not exactly sure how that parking brake is connected. There it is. It's connected right here. It just comes off that deal there. You leave your parking brake deal attached there. Just remember to how it went on there when you go to put the new on. So this whole assembly comes out one piece where I'm replacing everything. I got a new adjuster star. Next comes your wheel cylinder. In the back you got 2 bolts, 11mm socket, and of course you've got your brake line that's going to be connected to it. That's got to come off. With a little persuasion, she'll come out. Then it's time for some cleanup. You don't want to put your stuff back with it all cruddy like this. This one's pretty bad because the wheel seal leaked all over the place. So I mean, this is worse than it normally is. Okay, with everything removed, you can see a little better the little window right there that I knocked open with a hammer and chisel to be able to loosen up the shoes so they weren't grabbing the drums before I took them off. I'm going to knock that out the rest of the way, and then in the kit there's little rubber plugs that will go in there to seal it back up. This is also how you're going to adjust your shoes to begin with. You got to stick a tool in there and adjust your little star wheel. Okay, so I got a new brake hardware kit here for these brakes. Highly recommend this if you do a job like this. It comes with new rods here, also the self-adjuster bracket there, spring for that, holder for that, the actual adjuster wheel. And then it comes with that plug that I showed you, that hole that I punched through. That's what you put in the hole there to plug it up after you get done adjusting your shoes, once you get it all in place. Okay, so a little bit of pre-assembly on the shoes before we stick them up there. You can see I got my adjuster wheel right here. Got the new spring that's going to hold them together. Notice how this spring is installed. Also, the star adjusting wheel is towards the back, depending on which side you're on. Also, these shoes are different. They are not the same. What I recommend is take your old assembly and just lay it down on the ground next to where you're working, so you kind of have an orientation of where all this goes. Also, do one side at a time so you can kind of reference off that and mirror. If you do get something mixed up, you can mirror. Also, having a manual here is a good idea. These drum brakes can get pretty complicated. I've just got a Chilton here, 94 to 04. Well, you also have to remember that these kits here are side specific. You have a right and a left, or a driver and a passenger. Along with that, I would also recommend the kit that has all of your return springs, shoe retainers. This also has more rubber plugs, but this has everything you're going to need so you don't have to reuse any of that old junk. Okay, so before you install your new shoes, you're going to want to install your new wheel cylinder. I got 2 new ones for both sides. These are the same part number for both sides. But you got a place for your brake line to go in. You got your bleeder screw with a cap, your 2 mounting bolts. You can see the round area there goes through the round area that the old one came out, and they just bolt in the same way. Okay, so another thing you gotta do before you can put these shoes on the backing plate is there's 3 places on each shoe that rub against the backing plate. You want to put some high temperature brake grease on those areas. Now, I thought the new shoes would come with a little packet of it, but it didn't. So before you leave the store, make sure you get some high temperature brake grease. You're not trying to lube them up like a wheel bearing. Just a little bit of grease there because they will rub. Okay, so we got our shoes assembly here. We're going to get our parking brake deal hooked onto it. Hopefully here. So once that's hooked on, you kind of spread it over your deal, kind of find your home for it, for the shoes. Now you're going to take one of your pins and you're going to stick it in the back side. And we're going to try to install these shoes. Okay, this is not usually the easiest thing to do. They actually sell a tool that pushes on these deals here and helps you install them. And we have one of those tools, but I can't find it. Well, I got it. Okay, so the pin I just installed was this one. You come in from the back side of the backing plate. You got your spring and you've got your retainer here. And you can see there's a slot in that. Well, you can see in this pin it's got a smashed end. And you need to put the pin in from the back side. You need to install this to hold your shoe. You got to slide it down and then you got to twist it so it locks that onto the pin. A lot easier to do right here, not so easy to do when you're squishing it on the shoe. Okay, so now comes the arm here for the self adjuster. Make sure your shoes are where they're supposed to be. Close anyway, because it's going to make all this go on a lot easier. This goes into a hole on the shoe there. You've got your pin. It's got to go in from the back side. Goes through. All of that. Then you've got your spring and your retainer. Oh, this is why drum brakes have been replaced. Because this is ridiculous. Okay, next comes the parking brake deal. They send a new spring. Again, this spring is bigger than the old one. Hopefully it's going to go in. We'll see here. It goes in like this. Spring to the front. And you've got these deals here going outward. This will be fun. I don't know if I'll be able to put this all on camera or not on this install, because I don't want to bore you to death. Okay, so now we're going to install this piece, which goes to the linkage of the self adjuster, and it goes, make sure you've got it in the right way, it goes up to this deal up here. Then we've got the new spring that's going to go under the adjuster here. Okay, now comes the fun part, if you're having any fun at this point. Installing the primary springs for the shoes. This is not fun. I got this spring stretcher here deal from this is Craftsman's, but they have stuff. Basically, whatever you can do to get these springs to stretch back over to where you need them is what you need to do. One down, one more to go. Just use a screwdriver, skinny one. I got my face shield on because, like I said, these things are tight, and if they spring back at you, hitting you in the face, you're gonna know it. Now I got one more here. Got lucky on that one. So there you have it, guys. Like I said, I haven't done a drum brake in a really long time. I referenced the other side. I referenced my manual I have. But these are the two main springs I just installed. And like I said, they are not easy to get on. Whatever way you can get them on, get them on. That's all I can tell you. It'll probably be a struggle for you. But everything is in place, looking good. We're now ready for the drum. Okay, so here we have new drums. Brand new drums. Now, you don't want to just slap these on. They're covered in oil so they don't rust while they're sitting on the shelves. You don't have to clean out the outside, but you do have to clean the inside where the shoes ride. Going to use some brake clean, spray it, and clean it out really good before we install them. Okay, so it's now time for the cleaned drum. It helps to clean off your surface here where the drum's going to be sitting on. And if you're having trouble getting your drum on, it means the pads or the shoes haven't retracted all the way, so you got to get in there and push them down and get them retracted. And I'm having that problem. The shoes are not going back all the way. Okay, so I've been struggling with this side. I went ahead and did the other side to see if I was maybe doing something wrong. And the other side I got to work just fine. So kind of comparing the two, and I found that these right here are not coming as close as the other side. So what I did is I took out this they call it the parking brake rod or whatever, and because that was holding it from coming together on the top here, and look what happens. Goes on fine, spins fine. So I'm going to have to take these pads off, and where this parking brake rides on here, I'm going to have to make it a little bit bigger because it's not going to work the way it is. Okay, so after my modifications to the brand new parts, don't get me started on that because this is getting ridiculous with the amount of bad parts that I'm getting. That's how it's supposed to slide on from the beginning. Supposed to be able to spin it like that. Real nice and easy. I'll show you what I had to modify. Okay, so this is what I modified right there. You see the grind marks? That's what they call the parking brake rod or whatever. It wasn't allowing the pads to come against the pin there like it should. It was actually holding them outward, so it was causing the pads to be out too far. So I had to grind that down and clearance that out to allow, a little more room. I shouldn't have to modify brand new parts, but I'm not going to get into that. That ain't what this video is about. Okay, so hopefully your drum fit on there loosely. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to adjust the shoes, and you got to take off the drum to do that. Down here on the bottom there's this adjuster wheel I've been talking about, or star wheel, and you've got to adjust that. You want to bring it out to bring the shoes out. You want to adjust it out so when you stick it on here, there's a slight drag, and then you're going to back that off a little bit so there is no dragging of the brakes. I'll take you in a closer look at that adjustment. Okay, so here's your adjustment on the shoes. What I've been saying, star wheel and adjustment. The little star wheel is right here. It's hard to see, but it spins. Now this bracket right here actually locks the wheel from going backwards. So when this is here, the wheel can't go backwards and loosen up. You can only tighten. These are self-adjusting brakes, so it will adjust over time all by itself, and that just locks it so it can't be loosened up. Now, in the beginning when you do the brake job, if your drums are grooved and you need to loosen up your pads to get the drum off, you got to come in from the back side, that window I showed earlier that I punched out with a chisel. You got to push this out and then you can release, you can turn that star wheel from the back side, but it won't turn unless you release this lever off of it. So remember that. You got to put a screwdriver in there, push that out, then you can loosen it up. To tighten it up, you can do that without touching this lever. You just go in from the same window, and you have it. There's a tool that you can stick in there, or you can use a screwdriver, big flat-headed screwdriver, and you're going to turn this. And that's going to tighten the brakes. It expands. This is a threaded deal, and it expands the shoes. And the more you turn it, the more they spread out further. So you're going to do that, like I said, until you have slight drag with new pads. Then you're going to back it off so they're not dragging. You really shouldn't have to touch this thing ever, except for when you install new shoes to adjust them, and then if you ever need to loosen it up to get an old drum off. Otherwise, like I said, they're self-adjusting and you won't have to mess with that. So that's pretty much it for a drum brake job. Next thing to do once you get your shoes adjusted correctly would be to bleed the brakes. I'm not going to get into that in this video. I'm sure there's videos on that. There's several different ways to do that. And this video has probably gotten fairly long. Hopefully I got some good information out there. Maybe you guys learned something. But anyway, it's going to do it for this one, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Okay, so we've got our pads. I keep saying pads. Oh, there we go. Drop the retainer. Okay, clean drums should slide right over your shoes. And something's wrong.